How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Coffee and Critique. We are here with Natalie Cruz, and she is a tattoo artist amongst artistries. Yeah,
Hey,
Nat, let them know a little bit about yourself.
sure. So my name is Natalie Cruz, and well, I'm from New Jersey. I've been tattooing now for 10 years. Um, at the moment in the making of this video, it's 2020. I'm 25 years old, and yeah, I mean, I love the work that I do in regards to the tattooing. For me, it's like the foundation of it is just this art, staying creative. And, I can't wait to talk a little bit more about this art because that's the core of it. If I don't have the clients, I don't have the art. I mean, you know, my work is so dependent on that and so inspired by, the tattooing. So it's like they just go hand in hand. I can't separate the two.
Yeah, that's why I like to dabble in all forms of art, whether it's like
Mm-hmm.
dancing, like painting, taking pictures, making film. Like it's so broad. It's like I have
Yep.
to indulge in like every bit of it and
Yes.
whatnot. We were
Yes.
actually before I even press record, we were talking about films and whatnot, and I was about to just let the clip
Yes.
out.
Oh,
And like
yes.
how movies have changed. Like they pick like one horror aspect of that year and they just make it into a movie and
Yes.
capitalize on it.
Yes.
Like I'm sure,
Absolutely.
like for example, which was a real case, what's his name? Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Ed something,
Yes.
right? Ed something, isn't it? Yeah,
Yes.
Ed Gain or something. I forgot his name, but that was a real case, and they said, you know what? That was
Yes.
such a horrific story. Let's make a movie on it. So
Yeah.
that
It's
gave birth.
weird, right? Isn't it weird?
Yeah,
But it did. It gave birth to Ed Gein is
Ed
his
Gein.
name.
Yes, yes, yes.
Ed Gein. It just like, but yes. And I remember watching that movie in theaters, and you know, art is supposed to mimic reality, right? Serve as a means of conversations, and that movie was like wrenching. But at the time that I saw it, right, we've had saw the remake,
Yeah.
but the original movie was iconic for that one scene right there where that door closes and she gets pulled down into the staircase, and that just set the foundation for a whole genre of movies that revolved around these crazy mass murders and uh things happening out in the edges of society, you know? So basically, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, they pretty much capitalized on horrible events happening, and creating this movie that, I mean, made them millions of dollars. But I mean, it was a good movie. So, it was one of those movies that it was true horror. It wasn't anything supernatural. It was something that, they say life is scarier than horror, but the things that are mostly horrifying are things that can happen in real life.
Do you think that people should make horrors on other people's like lives, like that are real? Like, because people
Um,
actually did die in those cases, and they've recently been
yeah,
dropping a lot of Jeffrey Dahmer stuff and whatnot. I feel like
yeah,
not that they're glamorized, it just makes for an interesting story, and then people win
sure.
awards on real
Yeah,
people that killed others in movies, like the
yeah,
portrayal of this actor, the betrayal of an actual killer, and then being able to win an
yes,
Oscar. Like I feel like
yes.
we're in a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is. It's ironic, and I think there is you are treading a thin line, right? Um, I do think that when it comes to made up stories, I mean, I guess it's a hard line to tread on because you're right. You're
Like
you're
how far do
capitalizing
you
on
go?
the loss. Yes, yes, but to a certain extent, certain horror movies can mimic real life, and at that point, it's like, does it work the same if you're inspired by something that has happened in real life? You know, and how then it becomes Kendall's victims, right, who are still alive to to see this if they can compensate from that as well, as they should, if they actually live that horror. So I don't know. It's a hard line to tread on, because so many films, capture the horrors of reality so good that you're like, wow, this is crazy. But it happens in real life all the time.
Yeah, and I feel
You
like
know?
as filmic, like a person that like does film or like writes stories, we draw inspiration from places that are dark, or like like it's just, to me it's just wild. Like, you watch movies and I feel
Yes.
like it's an extension of themselves. So when they have movies where, like, how do you feel about like Stephen King, when he always has it where it's always like a semi uh pedophile in his movies? Because that's, you know
Yeah.
what I'm
I mean,
saying, like, where does that come from? Is that coming from trauma, or is that coming from an extension of interest? You get what I'm saying?
I think it can be both at the same time. Um, and especially even more so with Stephen King, and I mean, and so many other incredible storytellers, um, where he talks about how he reads news articles, and he kind of draws from these stories, and you see another common theme in his book is dead children.
Yeah, a lot.
It's very dark. It's incredibly dark, but that's reality, isn't it?
Yeah,
And we're giving someone distance from reality, right? Because they're seeing it on a screen versus in front of them. And again, these become things of uh public conversation. The purpose of the book is not, and the purpose of, I guess, any book is not to just to collect that information and hold it to yourself. I suppose it would be to collect that information and do something with it, and maybe, how does that information that you just received change you and inform your storytelling, right?
yeah,
So I don't know. I think there, like I said, I think there's a fine line between good storytelling and exploitation,
yeah.
right? And I think that's the line that needs to be treaded carefully on. Like for example, in the instance of Coco, the movie that came out from Pixar, um, there were so many, there was a lot of talk behind the scenes of the people that movie was based on not being compensated for their likeness in the movie and their actual historic family's name being attached to that movie. Um, and them saying, well, you came to our village and scouted us and asked us for our time and our stories, but we were never compensated for it. And that then is the Coco, the storytelling in Coco. Any artist can look at that and be like, this is incredible storytelling. But on the flip side, we have to say, okay, if we are getting these stories from these people, we have the budget to compensate them. The question becomes, why are they not being compensated? If the story is valuable in film, is the story not valuable in the real lives of these people whom they're drawing their inspiration from?
I think people just get greedy, honestly.
That's the answer.
That's really the
That
answer.
what other reason is it?
Because you don't know your movie's gonna pop off, and then all of a sudden you get a big check. And Paranormal Activities, for example, they put in, I
Yeah.
think, 15,000, and they got, I don't even, we're talking hundreds of millions. So you put in
Yes.
15,000, you got hundreds of millions of dollars. You've won. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And
You won big
they
time.
didn't know it was gonna blow up. So Moana, that was a great movie, and that was,
Oh,
you know
incredible.
what I'm saying. And but it still didn't get as much promotion as Frozen, and neither did Coco. Coco was an amazing movie. It had culture, it had
Oh yeah.
background, and people do these extensive researches, and they're like, oh, I don't know if this movie's gonna pop off. And then when it does,
Yeah.
they get their money, like, yeah, and then they forget, how did you start? How did you get
The
this story?
how yes. Yes.
People like, yeah, I'm gonna tell you my story, but then they don't have, like, people, if you don't know, they don't know whether to sign off on something or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, like what ends up happening is they end up like haggling the people that live there and be like, I'll give you X amount of money, which is a fragment of the budget, to give me some information. Like $500 for you to give me information on what's going on. They may have never gotten $500. You know what I'm saying? I could tell you that information for free, but let me get the $500, because if I don't get it, then someone else is going to get it. And then they play onto that mindset. And then that's it. And then they just move on with their hundreds of millions of dollars and leaving everybody else in the dust. So it's really like I was saying before, like, you have Texas Chainsaw Massacre and real life horrors, and then all of a sudden people don't get compensated for those movies. So like you're about to watch the movie Midsummer.
Yes.
And they went to research like a cult in another country. I think it was, I don't know if it was New Zealand or something. It was like European somewhere area.
It looked like it was Nordic. If it's Nordic, right?
Yeah, it did look like Nordic and whatnot. And they were, researching a cult all the way out there. And it's just like most of that stuff is based on real situations where you have people in a cult, and it's like, how did you come about the story? You probably heard it from somebody else. I'm like, yo, there was this weird area in this place. We made it out alive. Some people didn't. And now Hollywood's like, that sounds like a great idea to capitalize on.
Yeah.
Like this, people probably don't even know what's going on. Like, like, let me make a story on Nat's life. If it blows up, it blows up.
Yeah. And there is, and there's a lot of that, but see, in that case, if I'm still alive, it's like, I should be compensated for that. It's like, if you make, it's the difference between making American Psycho, right?
Yeah.
And making a total, complete recreation of, someone like, what was his name? Why can't I remember his name right now? Ted Bundy. Making a whole recreation of a Ted Bundy where people are looking at this man who is hunting and killing women and saying, wow, he's so handsome and he's so sexy, and fantasizing about it, right? And the irony of fantasizing about someone who would look at you and harm you is recreated in a film where some of his victims, I think even maybe it might be like 2 of his victims or 1 is still alive, where they look at that like, how dare you? There's a difference between a movie like Ted Bundy and American Psycho.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like one is like fake, and then one is real.
One is, yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's why, movies like, I think American Psycho can be movies that perhaps may be timeless in comparison to a movie like Ted Bundy, where it's like, come on. Yeah, it was based on reality, sure. And there's shock value to that. But you know what's freaking scarier than the movie? The court trials. That's scary.
Yeah.
Not
believing what's going on. Like, oh, how many bodies did he really have? Or is this real?
Exactly.
It's like, what do you mean? Like, oh, she was asking for it, blah, blah. It's just like, the courtrooms are definitely
it's like,
hard.
Come on. Yeah. No, and in reality, it's like, look at what we're dealing with, right? The reality of right now. It's like a Black Mirror's episode in 2020. And 10 years from now, will they make a movie about Jeffrey Epstein? And we're going to sit there and be like, we were alive when we were watching those court cases, and that was some scary shit.
Yeah, because
that movie has nothing on the reality of it.
No, you're absolutely right. Because especially when it's like, oh yeah, when you prep them to accidentally kill themselves, like situations like that, like, oh, she's thinking talks of suicide. Who know? How do we know that? How do we know that?
Exactly. How do you know that? Those personal behind the scene moments, and you're creating this sort of fan fiction out of something that happened to real people. It's just, I don't know, so there is a fine, and it's like, at the same time, it's like, it is a form of freedom of speech, right? To have these movies and have this art and have all of these different things that are in a way a testament to the time, because these ideas, they don't just come from anywhere, right?
No.
You know, it's not like now 2020, all of a sudden people are making movies, torture films. We can find books from the 1600s, 1500s that are horror stories or stories of love or stories of hope. And in a way, this art that we make and tell is a testament to the time that we lived in. You know what I'm saying? And that's where there's value in it. That's why you don't say, okay, a movie like that is like, some of these movies can be a little bit exploitative, or, you know, some of these movies can be like outright capitalist. But at the same time, there's value in creating certain movies like that, because now we have something physical that we can look back on and kind of take from, you know, whether it's a good or a bad thing, we still have proof to point back and say, oh yeah, they made movies about this, you know, 20 years ago. This isn't new. These ideas are not new. They're recycled. Art is recycled in a way.
So,
you know?
Is there a justification of art being recycled? Because we see it in the art world where there's work that we've seen a few years ago and people claim it's inspiration. I mean, not that I'm disproving it, but I'm just saying, like, you know, where, because there's the copyright law, which is like, what, after 75 years, it's pretty much anybody could work on that piece. I think like Robin Hood is one of them, I believe, where you can just pick it up and grab it and go. There's a couple others and like, for example, Sony had to keep on making movies of Spider-Man in order to keep the rights. If they didn't if they didn't make a movie with Spider-Man for a certain amount of years, then it's like up for grabs. So I didn't know that. So if you see a movie, I'm like, yo, this movie sucks. Why do they keep on making it? Because they're not trying to lose the rights.
They're not trying to lose that. Yes. Okay, that makes sense. That puts together a lot of pieces of the puzzle for me now. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, like, for example,
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if they did it with Alien, because he recently got that back, which is weird. So
so
art being replicated in a sense of, what do you consider yours, opposed to like, because we all draw our inspiration from somewhere. So is it possible that we can create basically solely from our brain?
Yes.
Or are we always going to be oh, you drew that inspiration from this art piece and whatnot?
Well, yeah, it's like, for example, I'll give you an example. You know, it's like, by the time a movie comes out, right? Let's say it's like the first movie of its kind, or the first book of its particular kind, because it's unique. Like, we'll for example, we'll say Anna Karenina. It was considered one of the first books that had so many supporting characters, and it was told in such an in-depth way that it was considered unique. But it's only because this was the first time it was published, and not necessarily the first time it was thought about. So then it becomes, who made it first? Who actually made it and got big from it first, versus who thought about it first? It's hard to say. Then it becomes like, oh, is this your intellectual property? And is this your physical property? Because there's obviously a difference, right?
Yeah.
And there's an obvious difference between flat out plagiarism and being inspired by the likings of something, but, you know, making it uniquely yours. It's you're treading on a tightrope. And I don't know what, I guess the thing maybe that would make it distinctive from one another, I guess it would have to be, what about this person makes that particular piece of art valuable? Because it is a combination of who made it, why they made it, what it looks like. It's not just that, you know? It's like, could somebody sing the same songs as Beyonce and be as big as her?
I think so. I think
I
so.
guess it
It
depends
just
if they were in her face all the time, right? But yeah, I mean, ghostwriters prove that point.
Exactly.
Right? But it's the combination of that person making it and that person putting their own dances to it and that person maybe adding certain things to it. And I guess whatever agreements are made between those two collaborators or creators, you know?
So if I were to make
Because
a helmet that had like lights inside of it, right? So the actual eyes like light up. That would
yeah,
mean that I must have gotten this from a Star Wars film, or I gotten it from this piece and whatnot. But the actual, like for example, if I made an Iron Man helmet, like I was
yeah,
the first one to make something that looked like Iron Man's helmet to work and
yeah,
everything like that. But it was just based off a cartoon. It was never a physical
yeah,
thing, you know.
yes, yeah. It was never yes,
So
exactly.
it's whoever takes the idea and makes it physical that makes it technically theirs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, it depends because how would you then fight for that property? You
Exactly.
know? You know what I'm saying? That then it becomes that. What are you willing to do to prove that that thing that created was yours?
Kind of like the Terminator.
Like, or what was that movie called? I can't remember the name, but it revolves around a woman who created this piece of art with the big eyes,
Okay.
and somebody started to steal it from her. I think the movie was called Big Eyes or
Yeah,
something like
yeah. It was
that.
called Big Eyes with what's her name? Kristen Wiig
Set,
and
yes,
Christoph something.
and then it kind of goes into that back and forth. Like who then started it and how are we going to reap the benefits from it? Because I mean, if you put the labor in, I think you should reap the benefits from it. At the bare minimum, if you put intellectual labor, if you've put physical labor into it, you put time into it, you invested something into it, then your benefits should be equal to your investment. I think as a creator, as an artist, it doesn't always work out that way though. But in an ideal situation, I would hope that that would be the case.
Yeah. And so do you feel like as an artist, you create your characters, and I know you also have you working on like a little like a story. Do
Yeah.
you feel like your characters are original, not like I guess original story altogether? Like, all right, no one has this. Like, especially in terms of like visual concept.
I would, I guess I would have to maybe even read more books to figure out if anybody has a story like this. As far as I know, fairies are not unique at all. Stories of fantasy and, talking creatures and, anthropomorphizing objects and things is not unique to me. But I think the story in which my character is trying to tell in the particular fashion that it's put together is unique. But what she is conveying, which is the whole purpose of the story is, it's about somebody trying to find out about themselves. In this case, a young fairy called Periwinkle, and she's just trying to figure out why, she doesn't have wings and why, you know, her fellow fairies look at her a particular way and why it was outlawed in the first place that fairies that didn't have wings couldn't be with winged fairies, and this sort of system of belief that's tied to our actions. I think the whole point of the book is to have that conversation, which is not a new conversation, just a different means of segueing that conversation.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And I think that might just be it. The conversations that we're having might not be new, but I think maybe the way in which we write these things out and type them and frame them from these different perspectives, they can be told from many different perspectives that I think give us maybe more insight into being able to have that conversation. So I think when people read my book, I hope they look at it and think, are there any elements of my belief that make me more likely or less likely to treat people a certain way? And there are in all of our systems of belief, no matter what you believe in, there's elements of it that inform the way in which you conduct yourself, and the way in which you treat others, and the way in which you raise your family. And even, it's sounding extreme, but even who we love, who we fall in love with, who we don't like, and who we do like, right?
Yeah.
Those are all tied into our elements of belief that are tied into history. And that's what this book is about. This young girl finding out where she comes from and where her ancestors come from, and the things that they had to do, and the ways in which they had to conduct themselves to walk through this world, and how different it is for others, and what happens when you cut that information off, right? Especially from a child. When you say, instead of explaining to them certain things, instead of explaining to them, you decide to just not have that conversation. And what happens when that happens? I think curiosity is innate. It's human nature to be curious. And when you don't feed those needs, especially in children, to those why questions, it makes them want to go out and learn on their own. And that's what Periwinkle is dealing with. She's dealing with, a father who's scared, who might not want to delve into those past things, whereas she wants to understand where she comes from. And she ends up going on this journey on her own, to figure out what's true and what's not true, and, what's being hidden from her and the reasons why. So, I mean, I don't think that when it gets published, somebody's going to put a copyright strike against me.
So pretty much the best way to counteract this is putting your personal experience within your work. So I'll give an example.
Yeah.
Comedians, kind of like how you said you put your experience in. A lot of comedians who are unique, they put their own experience instead of just telling a joke that can easily be said by another comedian. They said, all right, you can't take my joke if I'm talking about my kids or my wife in particular, because you don't have the same experience as me. Therefore, it makes me unique.
Yeah. I get what you're saying there. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's like recycling or regurgitating the same, the same corny joke. It's like that's what she said.
Exactly.
There's a difference between that's what she said and man, I heard she said something like this and that, and kind of making it something that's significantly different. That if it was written on paper, you would see the differences.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So I feel like art is kind of like that. Art, I feel like for example, like as a photographer, it's so easy to fall into that. That person did it, so I'm gonna do it better. But they already did it.
Oh my God, that's such a great example. Exactly. Because there is, I mean, you take a picture and there's flowers behind you, I think it's hard. It's like, it's so general that anyone can do it, but
it's too easy to, not that the act of doing it is easy. It's the factor that no. Like I took a picture of this lady behind, has flowers in the background. Cool. Yeah. And then your client or you say, I want to do that
I want it to look like that. Yeah.
How?
Yeah. I mean, I deal within the tattoo world. Right. That's exactly what it is.
So it's like, how does one critique their work in a way where it's just like, it's not even mine to critique? So, like, for example, there's a famous photographer, Brandon Wolf, and he has the neon look where they're by a neon screen and then they have that reflective. Everybody, like, he's the one that made it popular. Not to say he was the first one to do it, but he made it popular.
But the one that made it popular.
Yeah, and he ran with it. then everybody kind of started to do that because a feature page would put most of his stuff. So they say, hey, if I shoot like that, then I most likely might get picked for that particular picture because it's within that
This feels
style.
like radio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what this feels like to me? It feels like the radio. It feels like, a lot of artists talk about the radio, like the actual radio that's public radio owned by public satellite.
Yeah.
Has a particular algorithm that is incredibly unique and that is structured specifically for radio. And, the way it listens to the music, similar to Pandora, where, you play certain sounds. Well, the radio, the airwaves pick up certain songs that sound similar to hits from the past.
Oh.
And they will pick up that tune and they will, promote songs that sound similar to that. So then it's this, what does it take to get to mainstream? And is it you as an artist that's getting yourself to this heightened career, or is it you plus the platform that looks at your work and says, yes, this is acceptable. This is acceptable. We're going to push this. Right. So,
so it's algorithm versus self validation.
Determination.
Determination.
Yeah.
And
YouTube is the best example.
People getting their ass whooped for that mainly is because they're fighting against the system, saying like, I want, I know if I put this picture up, it's gonna get this, but then they're not validating the image itself. Like, I don't care if anybody likes it, and that's a constant battle. So then when I do photo shoots, obviously I'm not winning against the algorithm by myself. You need a team of people.
Yourself,
you need a team of people like, nah, trust in that person's vision and whatnot.
And then that becomes a collaborative process, and then I think then the question turns into how much of art is a collaborative process.
That's a good question.
90% of it, 99% of it, 98% of it.
Yeah, I don't do this by myself. Like, if I do a shoot with someone, it's not me shooting an invisible person. I'm shooting someone, so it's a collaborative process. So as a photographer,
I'm inspired by this. Yes.
How can you can't really say you did it. I mean, you can say you did it. Like, you have
you did the physical act of doing it.
Yeah.
You did the physical act of creating that. Yeah. But you're taking a picture of a model, right? Who in turn is adding another layer to it. So it's multi-layered, right?
Yeah. And that's where it's like the battle.
It's still your property. It's your property, I would suppose, until somebody buys it.
Now, do you consider your tattoos technically your property?
No, I don't.
So it's just like, I just tat and go.
That's a quick answer. No, I don't. Yeah, because I'm gonna tell you why. Because, like, tattoos, right? Because we're putting them on living things. It's not like art, right? On a wall. It's not like boom, right? This canvas isn't living. I give it away. Somebody puts it on their wall. It's my creation. And yet they own my art. With tattooing, oftentimes, and almost every single time, is a collaborative process. And then I put it on them. It's like I'm giving you this thing that you're asking me to service you. Right? So I don't know. I think of it like doing nails. Like, I do the nails, right? You do them on them, and that person leaves with it and it becomes theirs. Same thing with the tattoo. My artwork is going to outlive me simply because it's physically not mine.
Just like images where, I mean, physically.
Yeah.
Like, unless you like print it out or something like that, most of the digital stuff is non-tangible,
Yes, it's not tangible.
you know, and then
Yeah.
people share it. And I feel like taking pictures of people is kind of like giving tattoos, digital tattoos to people, because
Well, yeah. Yeah.
it's mine, but it's you in there, so it's like a shared process.
Yes,
It's, you know what I'm saying? Like I baked
it
it,
is.
you eat it, you know.
Yeah.
It's that's really what it is,
You
and
take it with you. Yeah.
you know, and that's when I always say, like, when you're working with other people, you have to be mindful that you can't really say I did it. Like I feel like that
Yeah.
phrase is kind of like obsolete. It's more so like we did it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So when you, like, as a wedding photographer, you capture these moments. Those moments only happen based on influence. Honestly, actually, I realized that
Yeah.
you can influence a bad mood or a happy mood.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
like, so it's really
Yes.
your influence affects the time in which it's captured by yourself. I mean, by you.
Yes.
So if I made
Yes.
you upset and I took that picture, I influenced your behavior.
Yeah, you did.
You know,
And it was captured, and then, and then it becomes, I guess, a matter of consent at that moment to be like, oh, this is ours, right?
yeah,
Because this is a picture of you, but I made this picture.
right. It's
I guess it depends on how attached you are to it,
yeah, and
because
you see
different
that,
things hold different value. Yeah,
yeah,
different things hold different value.
especially in the art
That's
world.
why, yeah, absolutely, in the art world, more so in the art world than anything.
So really, like, do you feel as crazy as this sounds? If you were in a gallery and you see a picture of like a person, right, and then you have the photographer, do you think the model should get half the money?
No, I think it depends. I think that it depends on, again, I think we have to talk about the creative process in it. How much of that labor did you put in? For example, from sweatshop, right?
Yeah,
From the sweatshop all the way to the store,
yeah,
there's a process. Everyone gets paid in that process.
yep,
But who gets paid the most and who gets paid the least? There's always a least and the most. But the difference between those two, like the price range between those two, is pennies and billions of dollars. I think the range within that difference holds value. I don't think it should be so extreme. I think when you have pricing differences that are incredibly extreme from one another, when there's labor involved, again, that's when you become exploitive. But, if you have an artist that models for, an hour or less, but is being applied makeup and is just posing. I mean, you know, unless the whole idea for the photo shoot is entirely theirs and you're just photographing it, then the photographer should be the one that's getting paid to photograph this particular model. But if the model is the one that is doing a lot of that labor, then she should get paid more. Like, okay, for example, the porn industry, right there.
now, yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
So you have the
there's
person,
labor involved,
yeah,
physical labor, and then there's the person that is taking the videos.
the producer,
No, there's the person that's exactly the producer. There's the person that might write the scripts, or that might be left to the actors, depending on what they're comfortable with, right? Um, and both are getting paid a good sum. If you're a known name, you're gonna get paid a good sum. You might particularly pay somebody else to, you know, be involved in the service as well. You know, so it becomes, like I said, a thing of labor. So it's like, I don't agree with, people. having sweatshops paying people pennies to create something for them that they make millions off of, that they can easily pay these people these manual laborers more money. That at that point, it becomes exploitation. When you have the ability to pay and you choose not to, it's exploitation. Okay. So because then, without that person that's making that thing, you have no business.
That's it.
You have no business.
And yeah, that plays a major factor, because I so then as you know, there's people who commission other people to do work. So if I say, hey, I want this painted, so you draw it, I commissioned you to draw this. So is it therefore mine? Because someone did the work. You know what I'm saying? Like you said,
you got to talk about the rights. You got to talk about the rights on that. Because look, I've made logos for people, and I've said, you maintain all the rights to the logo. I don't want nothing to do with you after this, because this is your brand, not mine. Yeah. I make a brand logo for them, and you keep the rights to it. And you have 30 days to make any changes. After that 30-day period,
it's not in my hands.
That's it. Out of my hands. So, what's the difference between, for me, a tattoo and a piercing? I just created the art for a piercing, but I'm still the tattoo. I'm still doing a service. With a piercing, it's like, okay, I could take a picture of the procedure, but it's not. The picture is mine. The proof of it is mine, but that procedure doesn't belong to me. That item that comes with it doesn't belong to me. It's like, it's, I guess it's an agreement of who keeps what. That has to be clear. An agreement of who keeps what. And every time I do a tattoo, the agreement is very clear. What I get from it is a picture, and what you get from it is the actual thing.
And that's the
physical thing that you can keep with you every time. And I keep my physical copy that I can utilize for advertisement and make my money off of.
Yeah, that absolutely does make sense in terms of like, it's kind of like, you take a picture, here's yours, and this and that, and that's it. So it's really about the ownership and communication. So you need to communicate.
Yes, but you can still use it in your portfolio, right?
Exactly.
And you can still utilize it as a means of evidence that your work is valuable.
And people see value in it.
It depends on what you... Exactly. And that's why I say it depends on what you hold to be valuable and what price you're going to put on that and what you're willing to give up for that value. It's a give and take. But I think you're right. It has to be clear. It has to be very clear in these agreements in which we're making to provide services like commissions.
Exactly. Now, do you have any films that you feel that are unique that you would want to talk about? Like certain things that you like? I watch a lot of movies all the time, so I could give you a number of movies that are unique. I think one of them was called like Necrotrana. I also know it's a Necromancer or something like that. It was a movie that was pretty much
Necromancer.
It was like a block. It was like Ghostbusters and technology and demons all in one movie. I could also send it to you, and it was pretty much like, so demons eventually have found another means and they possess you through the phone now. And then there's like this head demon that sends. It's a wild movie. And it's like they said, oh no, we're gonna upgrade. We're gonna do, and then there's these people who take down these necromancer type people. And it started off as a short, and then the guy who did the short made it into a movie.
Ah, yes.
And it was like the craziest movie I've ever seen. And hold on, let me find this film, because it was actually the most unique thing I ever seen. I think it came out 2018 or something like that.
Oh yeah? Oh, I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yeah, it was a futuristic movie and whatnot. And it was one of those movies that, like, I'm glad I watched it.
Yo, I'm
Oh, it
telling
was
you.
called Necrotronic.
Necrotronic? That sounds
Oh,
sick.
wow. Yeah, Necrotronic. Oh, this movie was lit. Yeah. I'm gonna send it to you. This movie was beyond lit. Hold on,
I'm definitely gonna watch.
where is it? I want to see your reaction. Actually, you could press play on that bad boy. I put it in the chat.
Okay. Let me see. I wish I could do both, but wow, let me see. What the heck?
You watching it?
Yeah. What?
Face is priceless.
Wow. Wow. Oh, this is gonna be so much fun.
It's a small budget movie too.
Why do I feel like low key the photo shoot that you recently did that was like futuristic is set in this time period?
Oh yeah, most of my inspirations is going very cyberpunk. Like your face watching this.
Oh snap.
This is wild.
Evil. Oh my god, Gets rebooted. I love it. Wow, that's it. But it looks good. That's the thing. It doesn't look cheesy at all.
No, that like when I saw the trailer, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be, it's I'm
Wow.
taking a chance. I saw that movie, and actually, I just found this out. So there's another
Tell
movie
me.
that he made a few years back, right? It was called it had to do with like zombies in what you call it, in Australia, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that movie came out first, and that was the movie that kind of put him on the map.
Yeah.
And that movie was absolutely insane because it was like one of the girls, his sister had gotten kidnapped and put on this truck, and apparently like the world was going through zombies, but then there was like some of these vans, like they already knew this was going on, so they were like part of the conspiracy. So when they kidnapped his sister, they started experimenting on the sister, and the sister finds out that she could actually control the zombies because they were like pumping her full of stuff. So now she was like kind of half zombie, half not. So she could actually like mentally
That's
control the
wild.
zombies, and that's what she was doing. And then her brother, he was like slaying zombies, and it was just a wild movie. So then that same director is the director for this movie. And how he
Mm-hmm.
did this movie, he started off as a short, and it was like a quick short, and then they took that same idea and they pretty much made it into like a full movie. And I was like, all right, this is gonna be interesting. I didn't know I was getting myself into because I saw the trailer. I was like, let
Yeah.
me watch it. That movie
Mm-hmm.
blew my mind. Because it
Yeah.
gave you a lot
Oh,
to
I'm gonna watch
like
it.
to do. Like it was like, oh wow, he's doing this, he's doing that, and then the story was really, you're following the character, and there was like a
Yes.
lot of like fuck yeah moments, like yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
that part was pretty cool. And yeah,
See,
that was the
I
whole
definitely
movie.
gotta watch that now. I definitely have to watch that now. I have a long list now that I'm gonna watch.
Oh yeah.
And I'm so looking forward to it because like I felt like I just wasn't watching horror movies for a while. And I think it was mostly because I said in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I just have to take a break. The world is a little scary right now. Let me take a break. but yeah, I mean, I really enjoy these kind of really, especially those where they kind of mix horror and fantasy and futuristic aspects into this. Um, it always gives me this sort of, how do you say, is that what the future is going to be like? Sort of feeling.
Exactly.
It wasn't a movie that I watched. It was, well, it was about an hour and something long, but it wasn't a movie. It was an episode of, Black Mirrors. Um, and, the episode is called, it's called Men Under Fire. It was the last episode of season 3, I believe, Black Mirrors. And it revolves around a young soldier, who it follows him basically, you know, into a mission that he has. And, you know, in that mission, they're after, these creatures who they, so vulgarly call roaches. And, he gets attacked by one of these creatures, and the technology in his eyes starts to kind of glitch. And he starts to be able to smell blood, and, he starts to remember certain things. He can hear people screaming. And you know, you would assume, well, this is a soldier. He's likely having PTSD, right? You know, of the things that he's doing. And he has a moment where he sees a woman and a child, inside of where he's doing the mission, but he sees them as just regular people. And he's like, what are you doing here? And they're screaming, and they're like, they're chasing us. Like,
I seen that one.
Are chasing us.
I seen it.
And, you know, he helps them, he brings them to safety. And, you know, it turns out that the people that they're hunting are just regular people, you know, and the technology that they put in their eyes is to make them see these people as monsters. And it's specifically designed to make the soldiers see them a particular way, to make it easier to commit atrocities against them. And so, you know, it turns out that, you know, they do a check on him. They're like, well, your programming is working all good. You know, you probably just got hit too hard. And, you know, as time goes on, you realize, no, the programming is not, the programming is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's that without this programming, you see these people as regular human beings, and you wouldn't be able to kill them.
Wasn't that my boy from Get Out?
No, was it? Let me check. Now you got me gonna check.
Because he was in a Black Mirror episode, and I don't know if it was the fish one.
He was no. He was in the first. He was
Yeah, I think it was him. I think it was because he was in.
2 million or 1 million merits. 1 million merits, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 million merits. Episode 1, season 1, first episode ever.
That was him?
Yep, I think so.
Oh,
I think
snap.
It was. Let me see.
I
think it is him. Let me see.
Oh, I think.
Yep, I think it was him.
That is hilarious. Yep, it was him.
Yeah, it was 1 million merits.
It said 15 million merits explained.
15 million merits.
That was the Black Mirror episode. Yep, that was him. That's what got him on the map. That was episode 2.
And incredible. And you know, that episode, Men Under Fire, for me, I especially like horror that ties in politics. And war is politics, right?
Yeah.
And you know, towards the end of the movie, he's telling his sergeant, like, why, like, did I consent to this? And he shows him a video of him consenting to it, but he forgot it. And he says, well, look, you know, we can't let you leave with this information, you know, and if you do decide, don't worry, I'll just put it on repeat. And you're going to smell all of that blood, and you're going to feel all of those emotions, and you're going to remember everything that you did. And, you and you killed a kid. You killed women and children and everything. And, in the end, they sent him home.
Yeah, and then he couldn't,
and
he
you
just
see
stood
this
there.
Dilapidated house.
Yep.
And this dilapidated house, but in his mind, the way they programmed it, he's seeing his home happy, his wife is there, and this sort of, this dual reality, right? The idealism that we want and the reality that we live in.
Wow, they're ahead of their time.
It is incredible, to see it. But the reality is if you, and historically we have, America has, convinced themselves and even programmed others to dehumanize other people. And this in turn makes it so much easier to commit atrocities. And that, again, it's not a new idea. The people that atrocities were committed against were like, why can you look at us so easily as not human and harm us? So it wasn't a new idea, but when films and books and all of that stuff starts to come out, it becomes this thing that is tangible, right? Again, that we can hold on to and say, yo, there was an episode about that on Black Mirrors, and it was.
Could you imagine?
Can't tell me that people don't talk about this stuff,
right? And could you imagine them doing 2020?
It's already been done. Come on. It's already been done.
Yeah, there's a movie called Idiocracy, which was a comedy movie.
Idiocracy.
Yeah, Idiocracy.
Yeah, Idiocracy.
Which is now
right?
Now it's like a biopic. Minus weird, Terry Crews.
Yeah. It's strange, I think, when you look at it like that, but again, isn't art supposed to mimic reality and be commentary on reality? If it is not, is it doing its job?
How we see it. So based on what you said, like if I were to create something, like what would you consider the perfect woman? I just molded this woman out of like clay, and that's how I see the world of what a perfect ideal woman would look like. And that itself is like, all right, that's your perspective. So essentially how art is just the perspective of how we see it. And whether it's distorted or not, that's just up to our interpretations. And it's really art because it's unique to us, the person who creates it. And then people can appreciate it. Kind of like you appreciate a person's personality. It's kind of like you appreciate like what's in their head that physically came out. So kind of like music and whatnot. Like they wrote that song and they actually played the guitar with it. And he's like, wow, that was beautiful lyrics. And you also wrote it as well. And you played it out. Like, that's amazing. So you really kind of fall in love with the person's interpretation of what love is. Which is like a double thing.
Cutting off.
Oh, you couldn't hear me? I heard myself. I mean, when you hear the podcast, I'm pretty sure you'll definitely hear that part, because I just went on like a tangent, which was like this whole soliloquy, poetry on love and whatnot.
And I know
that's hilarious.
Damn it!
Yeah, it'll be towards the end. So what I said before we cut it.
I knew it was important.
Yeah, of course. It always cuts off when it's important. I was just comparing love in terms of like me sculpting things in my perspective. So when we create music and we write it and we play our music, essentially we're loving the person's perspective on love. But yeah, so thank you for coming on the Coffee and Critique. I'm gonna have fun stitching this whole podcast together.
Okay, let me tell you something funny. Before, initially, the first time when we were talking on Zoom, Mello had dropped my coffee, and I stopped myself from going, and I'm just like,
and I was recording too, so
with a smile on my face. Everything is okay.
Yeah,
fire.
You made you had like no like I didn't know what happened, so that's how good you played it off. Because you wanted to react, and then you're like, stay calm, stay calm, stay calm, stay calm, stay calm. I'm like, what? This woman is trained.
Oh yeah, I am. I am. There's fucking look, dude. Look.
That is nuts. Because you like don't. Wow.
there's dude. Coffee drop. Look on my freaking on my thing on my notebook.
Oh it's like no.
There's coffee. But all my pictures are protected. It's okay.
Sweet. So I know you were just like, oh no. Yeah.
Thankful for that thick cover.
Word. That's why you have to get that what you call it, those thick ass papers. Well, what's it like 5 pounds of
Hey, no, that's just too expensive. I'm an artist, man. Don't you know?
And that is expensive.
This shit's expensive, man. 140 pounds. You're crazy.
140 pounds. Yeah. That was it. Oh my god.
Man. No, but thank you so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Seriously, it really is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Next time we'll actually it'll be in person. It'll be better. I promise.
It's all good, man. It's awesome.
But yeah, thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your night. Let me know what you think about Midsummer and Hereditary.
I will. Have a good night, man.
All right, peace.